If you're watching this video, I imagine at some point you have interacted with a recruiter. Maybe a recruiter has found you a job, maybe you've been ghosted by a recruiter. But have you ever wondered how recruiters are measured when it comes to their performance? Well, I've been in recruitment for 15 years, and today I'm going to share exactly how recruiters are measured. Because if you know how they're measured, you can understand their behavior better. Let's go. Now, first things first, I've been in recruitment for 15 years. In that time, I have been a corporate recruiter, I have been an agency recruiter, I have led teams of recruiters. And I've been measured on a host of different KPIs, key performance indicators, different things they use to measure your performance, your output, and your success as a recruiter. In today's video, I'm going to share with you exactly what those things are. Okay, so recruiter is like one word. It is a title. But there are many other terms for it. There's recruiter, there's agency recruiter, there's headhunter, there's talent acquisition specialist, etc., etc., etc. While it is all one title with a bunch of different ways to say it, there's actually two very different ways to look at the title of recruiter. There is someone who is a corporate recruiter, so they work for a company, like Google has its own recruiters who are employees of Google. And then there are agency recruiters or third-party recruiters, headhunters, whatever you want to call them. And those are people who work for different companies, but they go and they find people for their clients, right? So if Google has a search and their own internal recruiters are not filling it, they might go with an outside agency and pay them to find them someone for their team. And that is how the industry works. There are internal recruiters who work for the companies, and there are agency recruiters, third-party recruiters, headhunters, whatever you call them, who work outside of the companies, but those companies are their clients, and they find them people and then are compensated based on placing those people within those organizations. Okay, so that's foundational information. Now, how are they measured? Well, it's probably no surprise that these two different jobs with the same title are measured very differently. So I want to start with corporate recruiters so you can understand the people who work for jobs you are applying to. What does success look like? What does failure look like? How are they measured? Now, internal recruiters are measured in a few ways, but the biggest point of feedback is time to fill. On average, how long does it take from when a job is opened to the time they fill it? Okay. The other thing they're measured on is fill percentage. What percentage of your jobs actually get filled? Another thing they are measured on is feedback from their internal customers, right? So if you're a recruiter, those hiring managers that you're filling their roles, a recruiting manager will often get feedback from them. How is my recruiter doing? Are they filling your roles? Are they responsive, etc.? Another thing they might be measured on is compliance and how strictly they adhere to the compliance that an organization has. If you're a government contractor, there are a lot of compliance regulations you need to meet from a hiring perspective. And so a recruiter can be measured on that. And those are the primary things recruiters are measured on. Are they effective at their job? How long does it take them to fill a role? And do the people inside the organization like working with them? Now, being one of these recruiters is really interesting. I've been a corporate recruiter. I was a corporate recruiter for like 3 or 4 years. And in that time, I would have anywhere from 25 to 70 roles. Most of the time, I had about 30 roles I was working on. And I would be measured on time to fill. How long on average does it take me to fill these roles? The average time they were looking for was 60 days. So that's a 2-month period from the time you open the role to a time a verbal accepted offer and the rec has been closed. How long does it take? On average, they're aiming for 60 days or faster. Okay. And then of course, my manager would solicit feedback from the internal customers that I had, meaning my clients. Now, this is helpful to know because if you know how they're measured, you can understand how are they acting. If they have a role that's been open for a long time, they are under a lot of pressure to fill it, and they want to get people through the process as quickly as possible. Quite frankly, corporate recruiters want to fill every single role as quickly as possible because it is the most significant way they are measured. Time to fill is king when it comes to measuring corporate recruiters and their behavior. Okay, so what about those other guys? What about headhunters or third-party recruiters, agency recruiters, etc.? So I've spent more time on the agency world. I started in the agency world, went corporate, and then went back to agency. And I've now been in the agency realm for like 9 years since I left corporate. And now I no longer recruit, but I lead a couple different teams of recruiters. And recruiters who are third-party recruiters, agency recruiters, are measured differently. Now, the reality is how they're measured might vary depending on which company they work for, but generally speaking, if you're a headhunter, a third-party recruiter, an agency recruiter, the thing you are mostly measured on is the revenue you generate. It's all about the Benjamins, baby. What they're looking for here is how much do you actually bill on a yearly basis. How many candidates do you place, and how much do you take in from a revenue perspective? The way agency or third party or headhunters, the way it works is you find a candidate for the role, your client hires that candidate, and they pay usually a portion of that candidate's salary, about 25%. So if you place someone, it's a $100K salary, that company has to pay your company $25,000. So over the course of the year, how much do you bring in? Most agency recruiters are trying to fill one role a month. And if you can do that, on average, you will be successful as a headhunter. Now, outside of that, there are other metrics they track. A lot of them are activity metrics. When I first started out, they actually measured how many calls I made a day, how long I was on the phone for the day, what was the average time I spent on every single call, how many job orders did I get, and that's new clients agreeing to work with me. And how many send-outs did I get, meaning how many candidates did I send to interviews? And those numbers were 80 calls a day, on the phone for 4 hours a day. My average call was supposed to be about 3 minutes long. I was supposed to have 3 new jobs to work on every week and 3 candidates sent out to interviews every single week. Now, at the end of the day, what matters most when you're talking about a headhunter is revenue build, but when someone's new or when they're monitoring performance, those activity metrics play a big role in how they are evaluated. Now, early in my career, those were some pretty hard jobs, and those were a lot of dials. There was times where I made over 120 phone calls a day. I made a lot of cold calls. So there was times earlier in my career where it was pretty challenging. But another pretty challenging experience I had early in my career was the worst interview I ever had. And if you're interested in that story, I made this video about it, so you can go watch it there. So I'm done here. I'll see you over there.